Hello, here. Hello, sorry about that. I had a man with me, you see, and the staff have gone out for the day. You know what it's like. It takes a bit longer these days. Um, no, in all honesty, we lost the car keys, and for my husband's car, quite a few days ago now, and they finally came to fit a new key. And he got here at 9:30, and it's taken him an hour and a half to do it. Oh, goodness me. And I never thought I'd be here, but I am. So that's good. So I thought I'd have a play with some embossing powders today and some, well, not new by any means, but some different bits and pieces that embossing powders can do these days. So subsequently, it's a play day. So nothing new as such, but a new thing for you just for today. The embossing powders that I'm going to be using here today, not all of them shall I use, but I've got a little array. So I've got the bluey colours, which are Long Island Teal, Primary Bluetiful, yeah, and Angel Eyes. So they're all of a similar sort of colour. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but they're all sort of like a bluey, greeny colour. That's one lot. And I've got this little lot, which are the earth tones. So they're more of the honey, it's called. So it's a sort of a honey colour, olive, and a beautiful colour called Wink, which is sort of like magenta, I think is, isn't it? So I have got for you as a giveaway today the whole set, including the little box, all going to be sent away to you, to the winning person, to the giveaway for people that comment after the live. So you have to go onto YouTube, onto the video itself to comment. Nice comment. No, not necessarily nice comment, but you know what I mean. And I shall pick that at 8 o'clock this evening. Okay, so 8 o'clock on the 2nd of September 2020, I will pick out the winner and I will send off to the person who has won these lovely sets, and that will be completely at random. The staff will be back and I shall get the staff to put a pin in for that. Okay, so that is later on. There are a couple of bits and pieces that you could buy if you wanted to, if you're inspired, and I will tell you about that as we go along. So a couple of techniques then, first of all. Now I'm mixing and matching here today, lots of different things. I've got some eye zinc powders. Okay, I have got some Wow embossing pad. I have got the freestyle tool to show you a bit about that. I've also got some of the lightning effects changes in the Wow. So lots of different things mixed with old things. And when I mean old things, I'm going to use a stamp that I've used so many times before, and I know so many of you have it, which is the Blooming Vines background stamp. But the techniques that I'm going to do today can be for any background stamp. It's just, that's the one that I've chosen. And I'm also going to be using, again, must have been the most popular butterfly die earlier this year, which was the Crafter's Companion Nature's Garden Beautiful Butterflies, the Statement Butterfly. And I'm afraid you can't get it anymore. It is discontinued. So hopefully you may have it, or I'm sure you'll have something similar that you could work with. Okay, so first up, I'm going to do the butterfly one. So I've taken myself a piece of luster card. This is the Crafts 2 luster card, and I think this one is in what do they call turquoise, but it's got like a sheen to it. It is only a single-sided, but that's okay for this particular thing. So I'm now going to just, hold on, bring in my stamping platform. And because the stamp that I'm using is a thicker rubber one, I needed to take out the foam background on here. The foam thingy. What do I mean? the foam, this bit. Yeah, I don't know what you call it. I've lost myself now. Anyway, that. Need to take that out. And I'm going to do, well, let's push these things out of the way. I'm going to use the opaline of iZinc to start off with. So Relief Opaline. So that's sort of like a mother of pearl type of effect. So I'm just going to rub my anti-static bag over there just to take off any of the worst. And I'm going to use my Wow embossing pad, or any other embossing pad you could use. So you could be using Versamark, Perfect Medium, iZinc, but I just happen to have this one here today. And so I'm just going to put that liberally over the side. Sorry if it's wobbling because the camera's wobbling. Oops. And I'm just going to pop that straight down onto my piece of card. Now, you won't be able to see this all that well. That's the only downside of it. Don't know if you can see it at all because I can hardly see it. Just about. Oh, look. You can just about see it there. So I'm just going to go over with, let's just take a piece of paper. And I'm just going to put the opaline on it. So it's just a very subtle colour. It is, it's not your clear one. That's your vernice that you can see now perhaps. And that will give me sort of just that, like, as I say, mother of pearl type of card, type of finish, I should say. So I'm going to take my heat gun, and I've got my heat resistant mat on the thing there. So let's just heat it all up a bit. Put that lid on because you know what it'll be like. And so this is obviously going to be the background. And as soon as it starts to take, hopefully you can see when it will start to take. And you just then move that along. I'm doing it on my lightest heat setting. On this embossing tool gun, I have got 2 heat settings, and I have found that I get less warp on it by using it on the lower heat setting. It still sets it, takes a little bit longer, but I do tend to get less warp on it, on the card. And we all want a little bit less warp, do we not? Okay. So, just going through that. You could use any background stamp, as I say. I did have a few abstract ones which I tried, and they didn't do it for me, I'm afraid. So I went back with the pretty. I like the pretty. So just make sure that that's all set. You couldn't comment, Heather? Oh, on the at the bottom, you mean? Hold on, I shall just finish doing this and then I shall read what you're saying. Do you mean on the YouTube that you couldn't comment? You just have to be signed into it, that's all. Signed into your Google account, and then you will be able to comment. So hopefully that, and that also means that you get notifications via YouTube of when I'm going to be doing a live. Obviously I put it on the Facebook page as well, but you can get it via YouTube as well if you have subscribed, I should have said. So hopefully you can now see that is there, but it is a very subtle look. So it's not the clear one, because I found that the clear one you can hardly see it at all. And I did want to see a bit of it. So that is my background there. Okay, so I'm going to trim that down in a minute. Then I'm going to take one of the butterflies. So with the statement butterfly, the Crafter's Companion one. There were 3 dies, and I've used the largest, not largest, the more filigree one, this one. And in order to do that, I'm going to use my freestyle tool. Now, my freestyle tool is 2 things, well, 3 things actually. It is a refill initially for the Wow embossing pad. So it's the same stuff that's in here. All right. It's also a conditioner for this as well, so that if you've got it very mucky, it helps to condition it. But it's also a freestyle tool. So if you could write with it, if you are lucky enough to have beautiful handwriting or something like that, you could you could write your own name like that. And I've left the E off the end. Hold on. Let me do this properly. Hold on a minute. Put some embossing powder over it. I should have done it properly. And then obviously you can see I could set that. Yeah. And so that you could, I mean, I don't write properly. Well, I do write properly, but I don't write beautifully like some people do. Some people have got beautiful calligraphy writing, and it would, it would work really, really well if you did that. But that's something that you could do. I'm sure you don't want to keep looking at my name on there, because I know I don't. So I'm going to chop that off because I don't want to keep looking at that. Anyway, we go on to the butterfly. So the beauty of our butterfly is that we're going to use 2 colours, which is the primary Blutiful and also the Angel Eyes. And I'm going to change up a little bit with my lightning effects changes here. So let's first of all do a couple of colours. So I'm going to take on my freestyle tool, and I'm just going to use in some places my tool. So I'm not going to use it everywhere. I'm just rubbing it over so that it's going to go randomly on here in some places. Okay. And then I'm going to sprinkle over to start off with the Angel Eyes. So wherever I put that embossing tool, I've now got some powder, and it's meant to be random in this particular case. Okay, and see I've got it on there as well. Okay, so now I'm just going to heat set that. I do sometimes do it from the back, but to be honest, I don't have the patience for it to set on the back with the embossing. I know that stops or sort of throws the embossing powder, the heat off, and doesn't give so much heat. And it also obviously stops the powder from falling off. But I have found that I haven't got the patience, and that's just being absolutely honest with you. I have no patience whatsoever with crafting. It's not a good trait to have, is it really? But I don't. If at first I don't succeed and it's not come out how I want to, I haven't got a lot of patience to do anything more about it, I'm afraid. That's not good, is it? So now I'm going to go over to some of the other white pieces, and I'm going to put on my next colour. Okay, so and I'm going to leave a few pieces of white. I'm not sort of adverse to using leaving even a few pieces of white, because when you've got a dark background, that doesn't sort of worry too much. So now I'm going to put over the Blutiful, which is a very similar colour than the Angel Eyes, but a little bit more of a greeny colour, I would have said, even though it's called blue. Okay. Whoops-a-doo. You can see with embossing powder, you hardly use any of it because it all just comes away from it. So I'll just heat this one up. So wherever I put the powder this time, it will grab. And I'm putting it on this craft mat because it is heat resistant. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that onto your ordinary table. You might have problems then. So I would just go along like that. Whoops. And then finally, I'm going to take my powder. I'm going to go onto my angel eyes, go back to my angel eyes, and I'm going to use one of the powder from the lightning effect. So the powders in here come along with 3 different types of powder here. So 3 different powders are sheen, glisten and texture. And in the same little pot, you get, in the case rather, you get 3 empty pots so that you can make your own colours up. So obviously if I added, the idea is that you take your ordinary colour and then you add, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be wow, it can be any embossing powders that you have, and you add a little bit of whatever you fancy from there. So if you wanted to make it a thick, chunky embossing powder, you'd add a little bit of the texture. If you want to make it a sheen to it, so it lightens it, so if it's a really dark colour, it will lighten it quite considerably, you'd add the sheen. And in this case, if you want to add a bit of sparkle, you add the glisten to it. So I'm going to take one of my empty pots and I'm going to pop in a little bit, just a little bit, because I don't want to make masses of it. Obviously you could make it up and then keep it. And so I've put a little bit of colour in, and then I'm going to put twice as much of my sparkle because I want it to really sparkle, or my glisten, I should say. So then I'm just going to shake it up, give it a bit of a mix. And if I open it up now, don't know if you can see that, you've got that in there, loads of sparkle to it. Obviously it lightens the colour that I had on here, but it just finishes that off. So now I'm going to go back in with my freestyle tool for the last time, and I'm just going to go over the main part of the body because that's what I really wanted to do with the glisten, and then just a little bit. There are a few white spots and I'm just going over those if I can, but it doesn't matter if I don't, just to add a bit of sparkle to it. Okay. Not quite sure if I did that bit, so I'll go over that. And then I just need to take, now because I've only made a tiny amount, I might have to scoop this back. Who knows? Let's put a bit more on his body. A bit more in his head. There you go. So I can scoot that back into my pot, and even though I only had a tiny bit, there's still almost the same amount left in there, to be honest with you, and that can then go into my changer pot, so that stores those as well. So I'm just going to set this. And obviously this bit will give you the sparkle. Okay, so that's the idea of the freestyle tool, basically, that you can, as I said, they are initially refill this, but also powder on there. Also, you can use it to freestyle over anything, and something like this, it's easier than trying to put parts of it into your pad. So to finish my little card off, going to get my trimmer. Let's put this to one side, and I'm just going to trim my pattern down. I'm just trimming it to size for the card itself. I'll worry about that in just a second as to what the actual sizes are. And then my little butterfly, I'm going to measure this. So we were 11 by 14.5. So if I just give it 0.5 centimetre more than that, 12 by 15 approximately. It is approximately. Oh, don't want that to fall on the floor. So I'm just going to pop my base. So that was with the opaline. And I'm just going to pop some glue onto that. Oh, got to store this the right way. Put my kiss on the back and pop that onto there. Then we can grab ourselves probably a 5 by 7. I haven't measured this at all well, have I? Oh, we need to trim that down a little bit more. We can make the cards to fit, can't we? We don't have a problem with that. And so we can then pop this on here. My Facebook Live is not on my other site. Sounds like Maxine had a busy morning, I'm sure she... Oh, what have I got to sort out? Oh, I see. Yeah. Yes, you comment after the thing. If it doesn't work, you can always go over to the Facebook and pop it onto there. I will do them from there as well, so do not panic. So I've got my background on here, and my beautiful butterfly is just going to go on with some glue just in the centre as a centerpiece. Just hold that down for a second or two because it's got to go on to embossed powder as well. And that is my card like that. Okay, so it's opaline and it's the blue trio, and with my embossing tool as well. Sorry, my freestyle tool as well. Okay, so I just want to show you another trick as well. So that's that one. Now, my other one that I'd like to show you is using, let's pop these ones back, I'm going to go for the Wink. So this is the very bright magenta. Now, if I wanted to make it less bright, which I don't, but if I did, that sheen in here would be an excellent one to lighten it down. Okay, so you would add a small amount of that, let's say 1, 2, 3 parts this, and then you could even add it, water it down, if you could call it that, lighten it even more so with that. You can, of course, also add the sparkle to it because there's no sparkle in that one otherwise. But you could add the sparkle, or you could add the texture if you wanted to do a bit of mixed media. So there's that as well. Anyway, we are going to use the Wink, and we're going to use clear as well. So I'm going to take a piece of paper. Now, I have gone for one of my graphic 45 papers, which is almost sacrilege, but there are some papers in it that I probably wouldn't use for anything. It's always a double-sided one, and they have some beautiful papers in there. Okay, but some papers I might decide that I probably wouldn't use. So let's go for that honey colour. I'll be using that side of it, and I'll get my stamp back over. And as I said, because it's the rubber stamp one, it doesn't need the foam on the back there. So I'm going to then take my embossing anti-static bag and just go all over that. And then use my embossing pad to ink that up. And this time, as I say, I'm using the Eyes Ink Clear. Of course, you can use any clear embossing powder that you've got. So just a clear one is fine. Okay. Yeah, lots of people have got that butterfly, and and this stamp. That's why I thought, well, I'll use these because, you know, you can't keep on spending out, and it's nice to use some of the products that you've already got and maybe not even opened. You know what it's like? Because that happened when I was looking for background stamps. I found a couple that I liked when I saw them, and I haven't got round to using them. So I'm just making sure that I press that all the way down there. And then I'm going to take that out. Now, it will be very difficult to be able to see this one. Very difficult indeed, because there's so much pattern going on that it's hard to tell where the stamp is. And hopefully you sort of kind of wing it and hope for the best that you have managed to do it, because even when you put the powder on, you're still not going to be able to see it very well at this stage. So I'm using the clear embossing powder. And I don't even know where the stamp is at the moment, but you should be able to find it a little bit. If we pop that over, I can hardly see it. I think there might be a bit more up there, might not. I can just about see it, so I think I'm going in the right direction. So I'd rather put loads of powder on there to be sure that I've got it, rather than not enough. So I'm just going to tap that to take off the excess and pop this back into my pot. And as you can see, I use nearly the whole of the pot really, because it all goes back in the pot, anything that you haven't used. So it really doesn't matter if you haven't used that. So now I'm going to set this. And again, you won't get to see an awful lot of it. I'm not sure if you can see any of it. But you will. At this stage, you're now thinking she has lost the plot. I know what you're thinking. It's an understandable thought when she's randomly putting flowers on top of more like honeycomb stuff. But she hasn't lost the plot. Not completely, not yet. So, I suddenly saw it then, that I could see the pattern. So, just going over. And I'm just having to tip it so that I can actually see the light on it. And make sure that I've got all the bits that I can. And I think that's about it. So again, can't see an awful lot. Don't even see if you can, could you see that just about? You can see a shine there anyway. So it is there, we know it's there. So then I am going to take my distress ink this time. I'm going to use the Seedless Preserves, and the reason why I've chosen that one is it goes quite well with my, in fact perfectly, with my Wink, as it's called, okay? But the main thing when you're doing this is the resist technique, is that you really do need a dark colour. So I'm going to go over my piece of paper with my distress ink, but it could be any other You could use the pigment inks or dye-based inks as long as they blend nicely. And now we can see where that pattern was. Yeah? So I'm just going round in circles and I'm putting plenty of ink in, on even, okay, lots of ink. And it's bringing the pattern forward so that we can see. Obviously, I don't need to go all over my piece of card because I can see that where my pattern is. So I'm colouring the background. So it's picking up the background as well, but I'm obviously also colouring my ink that I'm putting on there. Okay. So I've done all that. And then if you wish, you can take one of the microfiber cloths and I'm just taking any excess ink off of just the centre of the flowers, really, just so that they show up a little bit more. Okay, but you could go over. So I'm going to trim that down. Trim it so that it is just the stamp size. Obviously, don't need those bits. So now I've got my smaller piece here. All right, and then going to do a little bit of enamelling, I think you could call it, because it really looks like you've enamelled it. So on this time, you could do this with the freestyle tool, but just to show you that you can do it in other ways, I've cut out the word happy from one of the Gemini stamp and die sets, and I'm going to press that down into my embossing pad, and so that it picks up, obviously on the right side of it, if you see what I mean, not on the wrong side, because I'm not going to be sticking it down. It picks up all the powder, all the ink, I should say. I'm going to take my powder and pop that all over. Now, shake off the excess, and I'm going to pop that down on there. And you probably will notice immediately, even if I use tweezers, that there is a spot there that I have missed. But do not worry, because we're going to do this 2 times anyway. And the crucial bit can be that the second time you do it, you hold on to somewhere else. So again, I'm using it on my heat mat, and because my gun is very hot, it will change already. It will change quite quickly. So I'm not worried about it blowing away, but you could use your tweezers just to hold it into position. Okay. Now I'm going to let that set for just a second or two, just because I don't want to burn myself, basically, in a nutshell. I don't want to burn myself. That's okay. And so then I'm going to go back in again, exactly the same, pressing it down onto my pad, like so. Then I'm going to go over a second time. This time when I pick it up, I'll remember to pick it up the other end. But because I've already got a good covering on the other end, it should be fine. I will try and pick it up with my tweezers. Oh, look, it's even gone on there as well. But you can see now that the bit that I didn't catch because I got my finger on it earlier is covered nicely, not a problem. And again, with the changes that I was talking about, you could make this colour lighter if you wish. Just put the lid back on that. I'm sure we've all got stash that we've bought in the past that we saw something done and we thought, oh, let's have a go at that. But it will always come in handy. We'll always need it. And you can bet your bottom dollar that the minute that you get rid of it is the minute that you wish is that you've just found the perfect thing, isn't it? You can almost guarantee that. So let me just prise that off and hold that up to you, and I think you can then see that that almost looks as if I've enameled it. It's got such a depth. I mean, that's only one piece of paper. It's two layers, and you could put another one on it. Sometimes if you've got you can get ultra thick embossing powder anyway, but I find that if I'm doing a fancy lettering like this, which is quite thin, that the big embossing granules for the ultra thick ones are a bit too thick for this. But whatever, give it a go. But you can do it with any embossing powder like that. Okay, so then I'm going to bring back my card, and I thought that that sits on there quite nicely. And I also made a little one earlier that just says, "You make me happy" there. So I'm just going to cut out that. Let's just measure how much this little one was. So that one was 11.5 by 12.5. How odd. So I'm just going to trim, and I've taken again the card that sort of matches with all that colour really. So 11.5. So if we do 12, and it was 12.5, and if we do then 13, we should be about right, I reckon. For that to sit into the centre there, it pulls the eye in with the same colour. So there was a piece of yellow yellow paper that we really didn't use, and I don't know that I would ever have done. And sometimes the more gaudier these are, the better this looks, this effect. So if you've got like really bright colours underneath that you probably thought, God, I'm never going to use that for anything, you might be surprised that you actually would use these, and maybe a dark colour underneath. Getting glue on the front now. Oh, good thing that all dries clear, isn't it? So, let's get you around the right way, and then my little bit of "You make me happy" can go just there, and I'll make that into a card in a minute or two for you. So let's just wipe this away so that we haven't got glue quite all over the place. So different effects today. 2 different effects, but with a similar sort of thing in mind, all achievable through various different things that I'm sure you've probably got at home. So you need your embossing pad, whether it be the Wow, the Eyes Ink, the Perfect Medium, all sorts of things like that. You need your colours of your ink, your embossing powders, and some inks to match, maybe to have a play. This one, as I said, is the opaline, so that will reflect any of the colours that's behind it, but just a little bit. So it's not white. It's just like putting a mother of pearl on it. Then you've got this beautiful butterfly with all the different colours and different effects, which can be achieved by adding some of the Wow lightning effect changes. And we also use the wherever it's gone. Oh, it's disappeared. Have I let that roll off the side? The little embossing. Oh, here it is. Hidden from view. The freestyle tool, which allows you. I mean, I could have done this with the freestyle tool as well. I could have put all of the glue on with the freestyle tool there, and you would have had to put it on twice the same as you did with that. So if you didn't want to get sticky fingers, that's your man for this sort of thing as well. So there you are. I've had my play for this morning. I have now got lots of orders coming through today to get off to all of you for all of the beautiful Christmas collection that was over the weekend. So that's all going off to you today. So look out for all of that in your post. I will see you on Friday morning. Now, slight change of plan potentially for Friday morning. I don't know if I'm going to do it this week, but from September onwards, Fancy Fold Friday is going to be definitely the 2 Fs. So definitely fancy something, but it could be fancy flowers. So fancy flowers and fancy folds, it could be one or the other. So I thought that we'll have a bit of a mix and a match with Friday. And then obviously I'll be back on Sunday as well at 11 o'clock for our main thing. So don't forget, we have the whole little range here. So all 6 powders in their little storage case are on a giveaway today that will be drawn at 8 o'clock this evening. I would prefer, if you could, to comment on the YouTube section afterwards, but if you can't, don't worry, pop over to the Facebook bit where it will be, where I'll give the link for the YouTube as well, and I will pick out the lucky winner for that. If you can't wait, or if you fancy any of the bits and pieces, the changes or the freestyle tool, pop over to maximumcrafts.com and you'll find them there as well. Okay, so I will be glad to see some of you have a go. I don't, Wow do sell the empty pots separately, but I have run out of them. I do have some empty cases that are only £3, so I do have those, but the little pots I'm afraid have sold out at the moment, so I know I don't have any of those. Okay, so it looks like some of you might be going away, so yeah. Have a good, safe journey if you are going all. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you on Friday morning at 10. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.